As long as there's life, there's hope. Despite pundits repeatedly declaring a player is finished, there's always a potential for a remarkable resurgence. In today's video, I'll share 10 incredible comeback stories, some featuring players who went from being relegated to lower leagues to becoming World Cup heroes, and much more. With that in mind, we're Thrown FC, and these are the 10 players who brought their careers back from the dead. Number 10, Diego Forlan. Similarly to many strikers nowadays, Forlan was hyped as a future superstar after 2 years of great performances with Avellaneda in Argentina. Many clubs wanted his services, but Forlan eventually chose the Red Devils. However, things couldn't have possibly gone worse for him. He was a striker that never scored, and as time passed, Sir Alex gave him less and less chances. It got to a point where he had to convince David Beckham to let him score a penalty kick, only to end his goal drought. To the surprise of absolutely no one, Forlan was let go by the club with his reputation tainted as just another South American flop. But Diego wasn't gonna go down without a fight. He joined Villarreal, became La Liga's top scorer in his debut campaign, and helped the club reach a Champions League semi-finals in the next year. 1 season later, he was chosen to replace Fernando Torres in Atletico Madrid, but this time the pressure didn't stun him. He guided Los Colchoneros to the Champions League, won the Europa League, a UEFA Super Cup, and most importantly, he had a tremendous World Cup in South Africa where he almost took Uruguay to the final. Forlan would be able to have his crowning moment with Uruguay in 2011, as La Celeste destroyed everyone in their way to Copa America glory. This really makes me wonder which one of the current Premier League flops will have such a legacy in 10 years. Number 9, Mason Greenwood. Now, I think many of you thought Greenwood's career was over when all of the allegations came out, but this man has turned his whole life around during his stay in Madrid. The one-time English international has been fundamental to Getafe's peaceful campaign with 13 goal contributions in 26 matches. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. You see, not only is Man United reconsidering taking him back, after all, despite valuing their public image, there's no denying Greenwood would be more useful than either Antony or Sancho in the next season, but Barcelona are also considering bringing him to the Camp Nou. I really don't know how to feel about this one, considering all the evidence that initially came out about his actions, but from a sporting point of view, it's undeniably a crazy feat. Number 8, Mohamed Salah. Back in 2014, Salah was seen as a future prospect after impressing with FC Basel in Switzerland. Chelsea eventually won the race to acquire his services, but his time at Stamford Bridge was extremely forgettable. Salah arrived in the middle of the season and never got the chance to be a starter for the club, and as a consequence, he asked to leave. That's a bold move that many players in his place would have never made, but the Egyptian forward believed that taking a few steps backwards would tremendously help him in the long run. After 3 years with Fiorentina and Roma, Salah got his big break once again, this time to replace Coutinho at Liverpool. Almost 7 years later, the Egyptian became one of the best Premier League players in the history of the competition and easily a top 5 African player of all time. All the while, he conquered the Champions League, the Prem, and brought Egypt to the World Cup 28 years after their last presence. Number 7, Roger Milla. Roger Milla was a decent goal scorer across the first and second years of French football, but the big break in his career would only come at 38 years old. Milla had already decided to leave Europe to enjoy a peaceful retirement in the Reunion Island when he received an invite to represent Cameroon in the 1990 World Cup. The veteran striker had the difficult task of overcoming a group composed by Argentina, the Euro Championship finalists USSR, and Aggies Romania. But the African nation didn't tremble and beat Argentina in their return to the World Cup. And a couple of days later, Roger Milla shocked the world when he scored 2 goals against USSR to qualify Cameroon to the round of 16. But his career-defining moment would occur against Colombia in the first knockout round. Milla scored twice again, and this time around is celebrated by dancing the Makossa, a celebration that marked World Cup history forever. 4 years later, at 42, Milla was still an active player in the Cameroon's first division, and in that year's World Cup, he got a chance to say goodbye to international football in his own terms. Despite the disappointing performance of his teammates, this crazy old man still managed to become the oldest ever player to score in a World Cup, proving to everyone, way before the days of optimal nutrition, that age is really just a number. Number 6, Bobby Charlton. If there was ever a player that embodied the Chuck Norris spirit in football, then it had to be Bobby Charlton. This man survived a plane crash that ended the lives or careers of several Man United players, then literally brought the club back from the dead to become the first English team to win a Champions League. And while doing so, he became the club's top goal scorer for more than 4 decades as a f***ing midfielder. Oh, and who could forget his vital influence to the English squad that conquered the nation's first and only World Cup to this date. Truly a remarkable player, and in my eyes, the greatest English footballer of all time. Number 5, Luca Toni. Out of all 10 men that I'm talking about today, there's no player that deserves to be in this list more than Luca Toni, as the Italian striker was able to rise back from the ashes not once, but twice. Although his career started just like any other average player, alternating between the second and third tiers of Italian football. Through his consistent work across several clubs, Toni gained an above-average level of experience for a 23-year-old, and that earned him his first shot in Serie A with Brescia. His time in the country's top flight kicked off on the right foot, but his second season was a disappointment, and after just 2 years in Serie A, Toni left Brescia for Palermo in Serie B. But that backward step was exactly what he needed. 30 goals in 47 matches massively helped Palermo achieve promotion, and from that point on, Toni would continue to set Italy on fire with 55 goals across his next 2 seasons. His performances didn't go unnoticed. Toni earned the number 9 spot in Italy's 11, and he played a crucial role in his country's last World Cup triumph. But as the old saying goes, what goes up must come down. Luca Toni would go on to reach even crazier heights during his stay with Bayern, but at 33 years old, the goals began to dry up. Roma, Genoa, Juve, Al Nassr, Fiorentina, no matter where he went, the goals never came back. However, at 36 years old, in a last effort to go out in style, Toni joined the newly promoted Hellas Verona and once again proved us all wrong. 52 goals across his last 3 seasons and one last title of Serie A's top goal scorer. What a way to finish your career. Number 4, Ronaldo Nazario. I know that many people rightfully point out that his 2 devastating knee injuries destroyed his career, but in a way, I think that statement minimizes the incredible career that he had afterwards. Thanks to injuries, R9 missed a great portion of 3 consecutive football seasons. To any normal player, that would be the end of his story, but Ronaldo gave it all he had to recover in time for the 2002 World Cup. In that tournament, O Phenomenal was undeniably the MVP, which not only earned Brazil their 5th World Cup, but also his 2nd Ballon d'Or. Number 3, Gianfranco Zola. In a time where Chelsea couldn't afford superstars, Gianfranco Zola was a difference maker in the London outfit. During the 90s, Zola had been one of Italy's best players, but time waits for no man. In the early 2000s, Chelsea was making an effort to replace their aging squad, and Zola's downgrading form saw him grow out of favor with Ranieri. But Zola kept his head down, never created any controversy, and made the best with the limited time that he was given. His Brazilians eventually paid off, as in his final season with Chelsea, at 36 years old, Zola bagged 16 goals and guided the Blues back to the Champions League. 3 disappointing seasons later, Zola finally got the chance to leave with the respect that he rightfully deserved. Number 2, Vitor Baia. A product of FC Porto's academy, Baia quickly established himself as Portugal's number 1 keeper from a very young age. His outstanding reflexes and domestic success with Porto attracted many European giants, and in 1996, Baia signed with Barcelona. Many wondered if he would ever become football's greatest goalkeeper, considering how high his potential was, but injuries stopped him right in his tracks. Baia went from Europe's most wanted to being rejected by Van Gaal in just a space of a year. Even when he returned to Porto, his situation didn't improve, as injuries continued to haunt him. I think it's fair to say that 5 seasons interrupted by constant fitness issues would pretty much mark the end of a player's career, but Baia never gave up. The Portuguese keeper earned back his spot in FC Porto and went on to be the wall that earned Mourinho a treble in his first full season in charge and the Champions League in his last. Everyone expected Baia to conquer Europe, but no one could have predicted that his story would have so many twists and turns. And number 1, Lionel Messi. The real proof of how good Messi is that to this day you can't really tell when his prime ended. But back in 2016, at just 29 years old, many people thought that Messi's best days were already behind him after losing his third consecutive final and announcing his retirement from international football. Things in Barcelona weren't any better as time and time again, Los Culés were missing out on Champions League glory in disappointing fashion. However, that all changed in 2021. Against the odds, Messi finally lifted his first international trophy when he won Copa America. The unity that this enormous triumph gave Albiceleste remained strong until the next year, and in Qatar, Messi finally finished his story by winning the ultimate prize, 8 years after his first heartbreaking loss. Poetic. And that is it for the video. Don't forget to leave a like so I know you wanna watch more content like this, and subscribe to never miss the most interesting football discussions, stories, and top 10 lists. Thank you for watching till the end, I appreciate you and I will see you soon.